So another issue that we see all up and down the coast, obviously, is development. Apartment complexes, mixed-use development, stuff like that. So I'd like to hear each of your thoughts on how the town has handled mixed-use developments, apartment complexes, stuff like that in general. And are you happy with the process? Would you change anything about it?
I made a comment one time about the planning board rubber stamping things, and I want to retract that. Because I think that there was some diligence based on what those individuals do on that planning board. I believe that. Okay, so I'm allowed to take back what I say sometimes, right? Because it happens all the time. Okay? But I do believe that when you're handed something that's not thoroughly investigated, and then you don't thoroughly investigate it, really dot your I's and cross your T's, we end up with a mess. Okay? For example, I'm not against annexation. I'm not against developments. Okay? And I know, as the mayor's talked about, they've created some things, not that we can only have four stories and all that on the island. It's great. Listen, I want the island to look like this today. I want it to look like this 20 years from now or 50 years. There's no doubt every one of us in here want that. We like our island how it is. That's why we moved here. Okay? But let's talk about the growth off the island. First of all, we have to make sure, number one, that we do our homework. That's number one. We have to make sure that we are, when a project comes up, no vote should be done on it. It should never be passed off to the planning board until we as councilmen look through it and understand, what's the use going to be for this? Is it going to be multifamily? Are there going to be apartment complexes? Are these going to be single dwelling homes? How's it going to affect the neighborhood next to us? How's it going to affect our school system? How's it going to affect our sewage system, our water system, our roads? All of these are things that we have to do diligence as a mayor and as a council. We have to do this in order to protect you as the citizens. You know, I'm not the keeper of all good ideas. The citizens are. Remember that. They're the keeper of all good ideas. And so for me, I want to make sure the biggest thing we have to do is we have to create oversight, and we have to make sure that we do our homework. If we do our homework, just because somebody wants to put in 80 homes, doesn't mean they get to put in 80 homes in Surf City. They get to put them in when we say, as a council, and the mayor says, and the planning board, and then we do our diligence, and we say it's right for Surf City. That's when you add and you build.
We need to make sure our growth is controlled. When we approve a development, we need to take a view that that developer must not only improve our sewer and water system, they must put in sidewalks, they must dedicate the streets to the city, so we don't have all these streets, the 115 private streets that are out there, and so we can have control over our infrastructure. We need to make sure that they extend and widen roads if they need to be widened, and that they correct the damage that their trucks for building causes to our main roads. We don't need to incur the costs that the developer can incur and pass on to the homeowners who purchase the homes that they're building. We need to make sure that they, for instance, in Chicago, you will see a cornfield, and the developer gets a go to build houses in a neighborhood. They have to put in schools, streets, sidewalks, street lights, shopping centers, and that's the way it is. And they do it. But no one's asking them to do that here. We need to make sure that we say, sure, if you're going to do that, you need to contribute X, Y, Z to our sewer system, and you don't take approval until they have agreed to all your terms. We need to know more before we approve the future building. And we need to make sure they comply completely with what are the parameters that we're setting forth as a town.
With our development, and again, being responsible, looking at the whole big picture, who it's going to affect, what the effect is going to be on existing homes and existing developments. And I mean, right now we have a beautiful new bridge. When that bridge went in, it was going to be the fix-all, end-all to all our traffic problems on and off the island. And there are still times where it's extremely backed up getting off and on. We're going to be building more homes over Dollar General area. We still only have one lane in and one lane out of Surf City, pretty much in every direction. if the time comes where we have to do a quick evacuation, we're gonna be sitting on the road, we're gonna be stuck, we're not gonna be able to move. But we're also gonna be sitting in traffic all the time. And I left Southern California area because we had gridlock in traffic 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it was just uncontrolled growth, unchecked, just expansion of everything, and the infrastructure is not there to handle it. I don't want to have us build all kinds of homes, all kinds of stores, all kinds of shops, and then go, gee, we can't get from one side of Surf City to another without it taking us 45 minutes to an hour. We need to continue to allow the growth, but we also, like I said, need to look at it. Just because something is allowed by either a code or a rule or whatever, we need to look at the whole picture and say, even though this is something that's allowed, we really shouldn't do it. And sometimes you have to say no. And I agree also. If a developer comes in, they should do sidewalks, they should do parks, they should do schools. They should contribute to the overall of Surf City and make it the best and better place that it could be.
Just to dovetail on what Jeremy was saying, as far as taking a good long look at some of these developments, we learned a very bad lesson a couple of weeks ago with Atkinson Road, and that was the lesson of connectivity. And of course, I've been to developments like Dogwood Lakes, Saltwater Landing, where the roads are extremely narrow, and there's only one way in and one way out, and one wonders, if we were to have a fire situation like we had last time, how do we get a fire truck down there? How do we protect any of these people? When there's a school bus, can you get by? They're all very tight and very narrow, and they're not, again, they have only one entrance and exit. How do you get out? So I think in the future, every one of these plans has to be viewed with Atkinson Road stuck in the back of your mind is how do we keep people safe in the event that there's an emergency? Secondly, commercial development is something else we have to take a look at. We now have 6 gas stations, 5 major grocery stores, and absolutely no sense of whether or not somebody could come in and build another one. The population supposedly is a little over 2,000. I'm sure that's not true anymore, but with a population of 2,000, you don't need 6 gas stations, and you certainly don't need a Go Gas on your way into town. It's the petroleum equivalent of a circus wagon. So somebody's got to take a real look at some of the people that are coming in and whether or not we actually need the services that they provide. Last but not least, infrastructure. I don't get it. Mr. Helms and Mr. Fowler had a little disagreement when I said that the sewer system was now at capacity, that we were bringing in as much as we could treat and put out. Mr. Fowler said, no, we have a swimming pool that we can fill with sewage effluent, and that's fine. And of course, then Mr. Helms came in and said, oh, well, no, our sewer system is at capacity. I don't know how we continue to go ahead approving developments when we do not have a way to deal with the sewage effluent.